Released in 2011, Driver San Francisco was published by Ubisoft and involves entering a dreamlike state in order to solve a mystery involving an enemy from your past before they can find a device that can lead to mass destruction.
Dakota? Driver San Francisco, not Assassin's Creed. There's a difference, I promise.
The game chooses to take heavy influence from 60s and 70s police dramas and buddy cop films, and it does a fairly good job at capturing that tone. You play as John Tanner, a loose cannon detective hot on the trail of an escaped convict, Jericho. It sounds pretty standard, but the entire time Tanner is bedridden.
See, Driver San Francisco introduces a surprisingly original gameplay element called shifting.
You know, that thing that all cars do.
Well, it's not like that. That's not what I meant. It means you shift from car to car.
Yeah? Tell me more.
From his hospital bed, Tanner can jump in between cars at will, taking over the body of the driver and getting the chance to get behind the wheel of a variety of cars. There's no real explanation as to why he's able to do this, and knowing he's in a dream makes it really hard to feel invested in the story because we all know how it's gonna end.
Wake up, honey.
There's no place like home. There's no place like home.
That's not to say it isn't fun, but I would have liked if the game crafted a real reason for this cool gameplay element to be in there. Even if it was something like, oh, he crashed into a toxic waste truck and got superpowers for some reason, I'd be much more inclined to care. Driver San Francisco is at its best when it's creating interesting situations to use such a simple mechanic in. Some of the most challenging and fun experiences in any racing game I've played comes from trying to get 2 cars over the finish line in first and second place. Tanner feels like a superhero swooping in to save people at the last second, which makes this game super fast paced. But not in that modern Need for Speed type of way, it's still somewhat realistic driving. It's rare to find a racing game that manages to straddle the line between fantasy racing and racing simulators so well. It's doing quite a lot gameplay wise, but it never feels derivative of any game from that time or since. By being allowed to switch between cars quickly, it sort of reminds me of an old arcade cabinet like Crazy Taxi, where it's super easy to play for a couple minutes, complete some missions, and move on. It's fun in ways a lot of racers aren't. However, even under minor scrutiny, the story starts to fall apart. But in order to avoid ripping this game to shreds, I'm happy to reintroduce an old segment, Evan's Compliment Sandwich. Before each main story mission, there's a series of side missions you have to do, and in those, a series of recurring characters you'll run into and help with their driving needs. I like watching them progress throughout the story and how they have their own plot lines and goals. There's an impressive amount of plot holes and unanswered questions I have, like, why can't Tanner shift with certain cars that he's either A, chasing, or B, who are chasing him? Like when you're free roaming and see a police chase, you get to jump into either a cop car or the getaway car, so why couldn't I in story missions? Because the plot dictates it? Also, who the hell is Jericho? Is he a villain from the last game? Because, though I've never played it, it's my understanding that Driver Parallel Lines doesn't even star Tanner. So is he from Drive 3er? If that's the case, then why aren't I told who he is other than bad? Am I expected to have played a 7-year-old game before this? Also, the game literally starts every story mission with a previously on Driver San Francisco. It's so determined to be like a TV show and make sure you're up on what's happening, but it doesn't bother to let me know what happened last time. I have no interest in the motivations other than knowing he's a cop killer and smuggler. But I play video games, and in something like Grand Theft Auto, that's a good thing. I've never shown why Jericho is bad. Also, I'm kinda glad he's trying to kill Tanner because maybe then he'll finally shut up. He's like the worst radio host you've ever met, having something to say at every turn and it's never said in a subtle way.
You know something, partner? Maybe you're right. Cyanide gas, a lot of it. Jones, that's bad news. Yeah, okay, I got this. Partner, where to? Let's get that beer. Haha!
I'm convinced that they handed the voice actor a script and instead of lines it just says, screams in expository manner. I mean, at least it had a story. Not a lot of racing games do. Bonus points for trying, I guess. That being said though, I do really enjoy how in love with movies this game is. Quite a few of the cars from the game are iconic vehicles from TV and movies. There's a DeLorean from Back to the Future, the A-Team van, the Dodge Monaco from Blues Brothers, the Aston Martin from Goldfinger, the Mustang Fastback from Bullets, or the Gran Torino from Starsky and Hutch and I guess Gran Torino, and so many more. Also, the collectibles unlock side challenges that allow you to reenact famous scenes from movies and TV. It's a lot of fun, and by taking away your power-ups and skills, it becomes challenging, and I like that. It makes me feel more immersed in the film.
That's not a big deal though when it's something that's optional. However, when it's a required mission, it's a much more serious problem.
The game works really hard to show you what your powers can do and how to use them effectively, developing your skills properly. But for the final few chases, you don't have anything at your disposal. Instead of feeling like a powerful badass who spent all of his upgrade points wisely, I feel like I'm naked in science class and the teacher just asked me to do a presentation on string theory.
All that aside though, Driver San Francisco is quite a lot of fun.
It's one of the most original racing games I've played, pushing the limits on what can be done with the genre. The gameplay is impressively varied, and though it lacks in story, I couldn't help but come back constantly. Also, having an incredible car selection doesn't hurt either, especially with the balance between everyday cars and exotic ones.
So I have to say, I do recommend Driver San Francisco, especially if you're into racing games and you're looking for something a little different.